People are concerned that V might pass out at the camp, and we need to get into why this is happening. We also need to get into HYBE confirming that a member of a group is at the ER, and then we have Psy actually showing concern for Suga and what's going on with that. So hey Dumplings, it's Dave Desai. Let's get into it. If you're not aware, Suga recently got into a DUI situation. This has been widely documented. I'm not really going to get into that much here. But there have been some idols that have shown a lot of support over what's going on, and support in a way that they can. They obviously cannot show support by directly addressing the situation or making any sort of commentary about the issue, as that would get them in trouble. But some artists have come out and indirectly said that they still stand by Suga. Some of his old friends have come out and said that, and one of his old friends that has recently during a concert was none other than Psy. Psy is an icon in K-pop. He's one of those people who will always be relevant no matter when he comes out. And every time he does drop a song, it is a massive hit. Him and Suga actually produced a song not too long ago called That, and this just dropped out of nowhere. However, that song was not only produced by Suga, but he then later went and featured in it as well as featured in the music video, all of which were things that he didn't initially agree to but ended up doing anyway. So the song has a lot of Suga all over it, but even more than that, it was an opportunity for both of these boys to come together and bond. They had a lot of communication together. They obviously spent a lot of time on set together, so I would be very surprised if they weren't close or friends. During Psy's recent concert, he addressed the song and thanked Suga publicly on stage for Suga's contribution to the song. Now, if it was any other scandal that any other artist would do, other artists would want to distance themselves from Suga, and then those artists would not tend to acknowledge those contributions that the scandal feature person did. Those artists would maybe not even perform that specific song because they don't want people to know that there's any association with them and this person that committed this scandal. This also came at a time where it was right after Suga's handwritten apology. And so when Psy got up on stage and said this next song was made by Suga and then thanked him for it, that was a big thing. This wasn't an issue that wasn't highly documented, and it wasn't an issue that I would imagine Psy would not be aware of. And so if he is actively choosing to say something and associating himself with Suga even after all this, this shows their genuine relationship with each other. This is absolutely beautiful, and you can tell that the boys are really good people to everybody, because if it was in a moment like this in which a member of BTS was getting canceled, and if someone actually really did hate any of the BTS members, they would use this opportunity to distance themselves and use this opportunity to take down the boys. But instead of doing that, they're showing up mass support and they're trying to make sure that he's okay. I definitely wonder how many texts Suga's gotten asking him if he's okay. And also, side note, I never understood why artists, when they get canceled, all of a sudden their friends suddenly try to distance themselves from that artist. People recover from scandals all the time. Now, when that artist then gets into a scandal and they recover, they're no longer going to have you as a friend. So it really burns that bridge, I feel like. So this was definitely something that made my heart happy. Now, saying something that didn't make my heart sing as much or at all was the fact that apparently someone has been rushed to the ER. ENHYPEN is a group, if you're not aware, that came from Island. That was a reality show in which you get to see the members form and everyone starts to compete. In the end, several members ended up being in the group. I do react to that whole series and that whole thing over on Patreon. If you are interested in checking that out and joining me on fangirling on that series and also checking that out and how the group came to be, make sure you check out the top link in the description. It will bring you right to the Patreon, and also there is a $1.95 tier that will give you access to not only just the show, but also to every other music video and every other thing that has been on Patreon, which consists of thousands and thousands of videos. There are limited spots, so I hope to see you over there if you're interested. Now, there was an announcement recently by the label where they said that one of the members, Jay, was rushed to the ER. He apparently got a fever after one of his rehearsals or whatever it was, and this made him have to go to the hospital to get things checked. Now, just something to clarify in case people are scared or upset, going to the hospital in Korea is pretty normal. People go to the hospital if they just have a cold or if they just want to get something checked really quick. The healthcare system is really good, so they can just go to the hospital for any minor thing and get checked up really quickly and cheaply. It's not the same as here in the US where you have to make an appointment to go see your physician to get something checked. You can just go to the ER. Of course, that also means that the lines are really long, but that's a whole other thing. But it said that Jae had a fever, and that meant that he could no longer participate even though he wanted to. And the letter specified all this. People were very scared at what was going on because people were worried that he was pushing himself too much or that he was forced to push himself very much. One thing that I think is very important to note is I think in modern day, these slave contracts as we know them don't really exist as much anymore. While they do exist, they probably don't exist to an extreme extent as they used to, because nowadays every single person who goes to an entertainment label or whatever, they know the horror stories that exist, and so they typically get lawyers. Nowadays, if a label were to put out these slave contracts, they probably wouldn't be able to get anyone to sign with them. So while contracts are kind of crazy still, they're not in the same way where if someone were to be sick or if someone were to actually have something that affects their health, it wouldn't force them to keep working. So then you might be wondering, what forces people to work super hard if they can just take a break and worry about their health? It's more so themselves. It's the fear of falling off. It's the fear of not giving back to your fans. It's the fear of getting into scandals because your fans think that you hate them. It's so many of the fears that come from the fact that this is not an easy industry to get into to begin with. The hardest part about breaking into the entertainment industry isn't really even so much once you're in it, sustaining it. While that is very hard, just breaking into it to begin with is very hard. Being able to do it full time is very hard. So once you're already there, you know that there's 10, 30 people behind you that are just waiting to take your spot. You just don't want to give it up. So a lot of people work through health issues. And of course, people are always scared that members or people within any group are exerting themselves too much. One of the recent concerns was a photo that came out from the military. V was wearing his black military uniform, and people were very scared for his health. It's August. Korea is definitely one of those countries that does experience seasons, and August is definitely one of the more hot ones. People were looking at him and were seeing how black and thick and potentially heavy his military uniform was, and they were scared at how bad this would be. Things like them feeling like the outfit is probably sizzling or cooking them, or feeling like V might even be suffocating inside this outfit. And so a lot of people have been very concerned if he was going to pass out or if he was going to get sick, get a heat stroke. This is a genuine concern. And I think if he doesn't drink enough water or if he's out too long, this can definitely be an issue. I don't know how a lot of these people who are in the military uniform or wearing fighting gear wear it for several hours. Just the idea of wearing a heavy bulletproof vest would be enough for me to want to jump off a building with how hot it is. So you definitely need to have a lot of discipline and control to be able to say, okay, I'm sweating, I'm really hot, I'm burning up, but I'm not going to react to it, or I'm going to try to keep my body temperature really low. Of course, for an athlete, this is a little bit easier because he is an athlete and his heart rate probably beats slower than most people, and that's a good thing. Meaning he probably doesn't heat up as fast as most people. Something maybe people aren't as familiar with that I actually had to do research on is something called acclimation, which is something that is done in the military, getting people to be used to high and extreme temperatures, so kind of warming them up slowly so they get used to these more extreme temperatures. Other things are things like wearing cooling shirts and making sure that the clothes that they're wearing are still cooling and ventilated, which this would be the designers making this, and I'm sure that they are making it like that now. Now, there was no report of him actually being rushed to the hospital or anything like that, although that was something that people were concerned about. Of course, something to realize is that being in the military, training, doing all of that stuff that V and the rest of the BTS boys are doing are not things that are considered easy or comfortable. It's not going to be easy, but it is something that at this point he has been doing for several months now, and combined with his training as being a dancer and an athlete, this is probably something that he can definitely do. So if that doesn't make Asian men, or specifically Korean men, a lot more attractive, then I don't know what else would. Because knowing the fact that most men from Korea probably did go through this type of training makes them seem a lot more appealing, in my opinion, right? Let me know what you think. Make sure you check out Patreon for more videos. Link down below. Thanks, this lovely comment right here. Love you, bye.